Good morning, coffee moaners. Good morning. Welcome to Saturday, the 3rd of January. Oh my God, we're not even fully 3 days in, guys. And Trump has unleashed hell. Can you believe this? Can you believe this? Our first Saturday moaning of the new year. And good on his promise. Donald Trump's unleashed hell. Whoa, 2026. Nobody does 2026 better than me. Nobody bombs Latin America better than me. I've got a mouth shaped like an anus. Morning, everyone. Yep, Donald Trump has attacked Venezuela. He's not only attacked Venezuela, he's captured the Venezuelan president, Maduro. Can you actually believe this shit? You couldn't make this up. And Iran have condemned it. It's a fast moving news story. You literally couldn't fathom it. You couldn't. Ellery adverts. It's the nature of all commercial output. I'm afraid it's what keeps us all going. And his wife, absolutely, and his wife. Trump bombs Venezuela, captures the president Maduro and his wife. Meanwhile, Iran is shooting protesters. Which is curious, isn't it? That they're shooting them straight after America said, if you shoot them, we'll declare war on you. So, wow, quite something, isn't it? Morning all, morning. Yeah, Janina, the news regarding Maduro has literally broken only approximately half an hour ago. So let me, given that that's the reason we were slightly late, more by a minute coming on air. But the latest update on this is straight from Donald Trump's Truth Social. I need a bong, says Musical Jim. This is Donald Trump's Truth Social. It's not 12 minutes ago now, but it was 12 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago. The United States of America has successfully carried out a large-scale strike against Venezuela and its leader, President Maduro, who has been, along with his wife, captured and flown out of the country. This operation was done in conjunction with US law enforcement. Details to follow. There will be a news conference today at 11 a.m. at Mar-a-Lago. Thank you for your attention to this matter. The curious detail there. Does anyone else have this sense of how remarkably stupid this is? He says, in conjunction with US law enforcement. Hang on a minute. US law enforcement isn't enforceable in foreign countries, is it? US law enforcement. So even by the likes of Tucker Carlson and various MAGA, previously Trump supporting influencers, commentators, political pundits and what have you, Tucker Carlson has described in one of his many podcasts that if you actually dig into the details, the drugs that come into America from Venezuela are microscopic. This is a clear and tangible assault on a country that is rich in oil, energy reserves, and all the rest of it. This is not about a couple of, not pleasant or potentially not pleasant drug dealers on boats sailing across the sea to America. This isn't about drugs. However much Donald Trump wants to spin it like that, it's not about drugs. So when he says in conjunction with US law enforcement, isn't US law enforcement about enforcing law in the US? This is quite remarkable. So we're going to be, it's just quite remarkable. So let's have a look at the latest news. So there's a lot of evolving kind of clips on this at the moment. Let me just, so you've seen Donald Trump's Truth Social. That landed, as I say, about half an hour ago. Zara Sultana, co-leader, collective leader, communal leader of your party, our party, the party. I agree with what she says here, though, regardless of how I feel about your party. She says, Venezuela has the world's largest oil reserves, and that's no coincidence. This is naked US imperialism, an illegal assault on Caracas aimed at overthrowing a sovereign government and plundering its resources. This is the key point. Starmer's Labour government must condemn this unequivocally. Solidarity with the Venezuelan people. I was staggered, shocked, and amazed, actually, that the Guardian this morning, the first news report of this, when I woke up at about 7, when I saw the news report, the Guardian described Venezuela as the authoritarian regime of Venezuela. Now, I'm not getting into I'm getting so sick and tired of the most authoritarian president and the most genocidal authoritarian nation in the Arab world, Israel, marauding around the world, calling everyone else authoritarian, whilst they seem to assume that they're not in any way behaving in an authoritarian, dictatorial, demonstrative, and aggressive manner. It's staggering. So when the Guardian used as a descriptor, the authoritarian regime has pushed back, hang on, it's not to say whether the Venezuelan regime is authoritarian or not. This isn't what it's about. There's authoritarianism in Iran, in Russia, in China, in Venezuela, but we also have it now in America, and we've had it for a very long time in Israel. I'm getting sick to death. I don't know if anyone else is sick to death of pot calling kettle black, black kettle pot called pot. It's astonishing. The authoritarian regime declares, the authoritarian regime of Venezuela declares that this will ignite a war in Latin America. Do not doubt for a second. This has the real risk of like tinderwood, just inflaming Latin America. This is diabolical. This is diabolical. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some of the clips that are coming offline, coming off on social media, Sky News, what have you. So I'm going to show you a series of clips of helicopters seen flying over Caracas, explosions, bombs, civilians rushing, running. In fact, let me just show you the headlines first. Here we've got it. Venezuela denounces US bombing as a colonial war. BT News. The government's first official statement calls the attack an oil grab and a violation of the UN Charter. The objective of this attack is none other than to seize Venezuela's strategic resources, particularly its oils and minerals, attempting to forcibly break the political independence of the nation. They will not succeed. And I'm not at all doubtful that the idea here for regime change is that Trump will want to usher in that absolute specimen of muppetness. The woman who did she win the Nobel Peace Prize? The woman who won a Nobel Peace Prize and then suggested Netanyahu was a hero. Isn't that an oxymoron? Nobel Peace Prize winner claims Netanyahu is a war hero. I mean, isn't that a complete fucking oxymoron? Is there any kind of tie up here? Is there any fucking possibility that what's going on in Venezuela is about ushering in a Zio-friendly leader? It's just all so fucking obvious, and people who I haven't got enough bandwidth can't get bored with this. It's just too much. Oh, it's 3rd of January. And I do genuinely think that the reason he's unleashed hell today is he knows most people, the vast majority of people in the Western world who are kind of relatively comfortable, are going to go, do you know what? Not yet, not till Monday. Let's leave it till Monday. We'll deal with this on Monday. And by Monday, he's already captured the president of Venezuela. He's probably going to launch an attack on Iran in the next 10 minutes. This is the guy who's, I've stopped 8 wars, I've stopped 7 pre-wars, 7 semi-wars, I've even got a demi-war somewhere that I'm going to stop. MeTube gives us some technical details. US refineries built in the 70s and 80s are configured for heavy crude. It's too costly to reconfigure them for light crude. So US is seizing heavy crude territories. Benefits of my time at BP. Well, thanks for that. So what is that? Is that richer? Is it more valuable? Is it more desirable? Is it more controllable? Is it more sellable? I presume all those things, all of the above. This is, when you see paragraphs like this popping up in the news, the US Embassy, this was at 9:15 an hour ago, the US Embassy in Venezuela, I wouldn't want to be in the US Embassy in Venezuela. If I was in the US Embassy in Venezuela, I wouldn't be at all surprised or I would expect to see helicopters coming in and rescuing them. But here we go. This is in The Guardian. The US Embassy in Venezuela has released a statement on its website saying it is aware of reports of explosions in and around Caracas. The US Embassy in Bogota, Colombia, is also warning US citizens not to travel to Venezuela. In its statement, the US Embassy in Venezuela advises US citizens not to travel to the South American country, no shit, Sherlock, and strongly advises that those already there to shelter in place and depart immediately when it's safe to do so. I don't think it's safe for any American in Venezuela right now. And it would, and you could hardly blame the Venezuelans for that. You're bombing their country. So let me just, where have I got the, where's the, oh, here we go, yeah. So Trump orders strikes on Caracas. Officials tell CBS as Venezuela declares a national emergency. This is a headline in the BBC News website. Venezuela accuses US after explosions and low-flying aircraft reported in Caracas. Venezuela's government urges its citizens to rise up against apparent US assault. Venezuela accuses US of attacking Caracas as explosions rock capital. Telegraph, Venezuela latest, Caracas blames Trump for strikes as huge explosions heard in capital. Here are some images. We're going to see some clips, people being evacuated. Suddenly, oh, they're in a state of war. They don't even, probably holding guns, not really knowing where they're pointing them. The Sun, drums of war as Trump orders Venezuela strikes as explosions rock capital. Okay, I'm going to show you some clips now. So here we go. The explosions on the horizon. I mean, these are images that we've got quite used to, haven't we, in Gaza, Middle East, Iran. I'm sure we'll be seeing these again in Iran. There's another.
And smoke has risen in the Venezuelan capital of Caracas. The US President Donald Trump ordered strikes on sites inside Venezuela, including military facilities.
In the last few moments, we've had a statement from the Venezuelan government who've said it rejects, repudiates and denounces the US's military aggression.
Just playing Sky News' footage shot from a balcony or an apartment. We're looking at plumes of smoke above the city skyline. That's Caracas. There's another one down near a military base. Another clip.
Trump is warning that the U.S.
Sorry, one clip. Let me pull in this one. That's not someone knocking at the door, that's bombing.
Mira, huevón, durísimo, chamo. Ya vas a ver un incendio, pero una vaina. Oye, marico, por algo está pasando.
So, I mean, the thing about this is it's so spectacularly unbelievable. I can see, obviously, look, for anyone who's saying Epstein, no one could have been more outspoken about how I believe, in my opinion, absolutely everything that is happening in terms of American foreign, global foreign policy, certainly the situation in the Middle East with Israel, the fact that Netanyahu was at Mar-a-Lago for New Year's Eve celebrations, it all seems very strange that all of this conflict in Venezuela, the threat of a new conflict and war with Iran, which we're going to move to very soon, all of this is kind of emerging off the back of Netanyahu, Bibi, that sack or that sock of toe rag juice. He, funnily enough, did an overnight, a sleepover with his buddy, with Donald Trump, and suddenly we're on the cusp of war with Iran. We have an invasion or a bombing of Venezuela, and we've captured the Venezuelan president. It does seem curious, doesn't it? And so some people go, really? Can it all be the Epstein files? I think the Epstein files are endemic to all of this. So I can see that people are saying it goes higher than this. I don't know how much higher it goes than a president of the United States. So how much higher can it go than that, other than all of the people around him? And when I say the president, it's all his like, it's all his friends. Or like when he phoned Marjorie Taylor Greene, crying like a big bubba, And he was like, please, please, please don't. All my friends are going to get in trouble if we say the names of the Epstein files. Meanwhile, there's victims of a grooming gang. So I believe, just to be clear, it's baked into this channel that virtually every choice, decision, and act of America and Israel in the last 2.5 years has been a consequence, in part, if not fully, due to the Epstein files. It's about concealment, it's about distraction, but it is also, I do think this is also about a re-maneuvering of world powers. What we have with Donald Trump and the reasons are what Zara Sultana says is so important. We have a leader of America who is behaving in the most brazen, cavalier manner of any leader on the planet, apart from Netanyahu. But him and Israel, they are behaving in a way that makes total mincemeat of any international law, any kind of codes of practice, any kind of alliances, any respect for law, or even the integrity of an individual nation. Because we really are in a situation here where pot, kettle, kettle black. You can't run around the world using as your justification for invasion or bombing an authority. It's because it's an authoritarian regime. When Donald Trump the other day was describing the preconditions in Iran that would lead him to attack Iran again, which is them quashing protest, them shooting at protesters, all I could think of was the National Guard shooting rubber bullets into the street in LA, and how really I think Donald Trump, if he could, would like to shoot at his own population too. So pot, kettle, kettle black for the 60 millionth time. America and Israel are not well placed to use as a precursor and rationale for invasion or attack the fact that somewhere has an authoritarian regime, when they both have two of the most authoritarian regimes hiding behind the myth and the facade and the lie of democracy. And what's more troubling than any of this, going back to the meme that me and Nadia showed yesterday on Coffee Moaning, is how many of us, people in our populations, in our communities, couldn't care less, or just buy the line, or just swallow the lie, or just trot on with booking their flight on EasyJet. They just want to do whatever keeps their daily life going normally. So, we have now no rules-based order. And I think I saw MeTube say a short while ago, what America has done with Venezuela legitimizes, and it's an if, legitimizes the act of aggression that could happen if China were to do the same to Taiwan. We can't. How can the Americans and the UK and Europe and the West, how can we engage in such obvious exceptionalism? If America is willing to do this in Venezuela, under the spurious argument that a few fishing boats are corrupting the American population with drugs, if China does the same to Taiwan, how can they try and draw a distinction? How is it okay for them but not for anyone else? It's imperialist, it's colonialist, it's autocratic, it's authoritarian. And I tell you what, the authoritarianism of Israel and America is coupled with and accompanied with this constant refrain from Netanyahu of the only democracy in the Middle East, and America, the greatest democracy. No, the word democracy has become utterly, utterly meaningless. Meaningless. So this is troubling. This is troubling. I mean, I don't think by any stretch of the imagination, I think Venezuela is necessarily an organized enough country to put up much of a resistance. And if Trump decides to make a land grab, how will that operate? I mean, it's a good question. What is he bombing? If he's bombing oil fields, isn't he bombing the very thing that he wants? But I think he's bombing military structures. I know he bombed a barracks that had a sort of very symbolic sculpture there. Let me just have a look at the latest news. Donald Trump has described the US attack on Venezuela as a brilliant operation, speaking to the New York Times via a short telephone interview. He said a lot of good planning and a lot of great troops and great people. It was a brilliant operation, actually. Asked if he had sought congressional authority for the operation, the US president told the New York Times that he would address those questions during his press conference at Mar-a-Lago at 11 a.m. I want to know what our fucking gimp, the squeaky gimp that is Starmer, is going to say about this. I want to know to what extent Starmer has any principles, given that Donald Trump flipped and has flopped on his so-called $3 billion tech AI bollocky fucking deal with us. I want to hear Starmer stand up to Trump on this. I think the European Union has to stand up. Spain ain't going to be happy. Huge numbers of Spanish-speaking countries around the world are not going to be happy. I want to hear from the Zionist Starmer, the genocide charmer, the apologizer for, the most appalling live stream genocide in the world, despite him having prosecuted a genocide, which I hate to use this language, but it's 2026. Let's just go there. It was a much smaller genocide. I'm sorry. If you want to compare and contrast the sizes of genocides, unfortunately, the one he prosecuted in the Balkans, just on pure numerics, is much smaller. So what is he? Is he bad at maths? What will he say? What is the government's opinion on this? And if he doesn't come out, and he won't, because he never does, because he's a coward, he's squeaking away in his gimp outfit, using the lube to get further into it, then our press needs to be challenging him and asking more questions. Where is our press? Yes, we can report it. Yes, Sky News can show the footage. Now, head off to Downing Street, guys, journalists, so-called journalists, all went to journalist school. You're all trained how to be journalists. Go and ask the proper questions of the proper people. And if they don't answer, don't not run a story, run the story that they won't answer. Fucking had enough of it all. Had enough of it all, this con. We live in a con of journalism and democracy. It's a total fucking con, all of it. So let's just see what the latest updates. There's another update here. Venezuelan vice president demands immediate proof of life of, this is astonishing, of Maduro and his wife. Speaking on Venezuelan TV, the vice president, Delcy Rodriguez, appears to confirm the capture of Nicolas Maduro, and she demands immediate proof of life of Maduro and the first lady, Celia Flores. What do you think of this, guys? Come on. It's your chance to speak. What do you think of this? Starmer is a fucking joke. I hope his government fucking implodes. I've got to the point now where I hope reform... in fact, I've got to the point where when I was at college, and I'll read out some of your comments. When I was at college, I remember someone saying, when we went to all these Marxism fucking conventions and everyone was arguing with everyone and no one could agree on any fucking thing. I remember a friend of mine who was not aligned with any party said, actually, we all need to vote for the Tories because the only way to get a revolution going is vote for the fucking extreme on the other side. I've got to the point now where I want reform to get in. Let's just get it over with. It's like knowing you've got the most awful punishment coming when Farage went. Let's just get it over with. Get them in. Let's see the chaos and the carnage so then we can then have a response and a reaction against that. Let's go that way round. Get Farage in, let him try. And not because he will succeed and not because what he does is right, but then we can move on to whatever the next unedifying stage of our stupid, pathetic, tiny island history is. Ugh. I hate Marxists, says Brendan Day. I hate fascists. No thanks to Reform Deep. No, you know what I'm saying? I'm being gallows. Starmer is a joke, but not a funny one. He's not funny at all. There's nothing brave about this. It's cowardice and desperation on steroids. Draft dodger Trump is a disgrace, says, let me pop you on the screen there. Catherine Foley, thank you. Nothing brave in this. Starmer is a joke and not a funny one, says Elaine. King Bridget, hope you're well. If world leaders don't unilaterally condemn Trump now, they never will. We're all fucked in that case. Yeah, I mean, this is a real moment. And if Starmer doesn't say anything, where the fuck are where's the Democrats? Where the fucking hell is the opposition in America? Someone who voted for fucking Kamala twatface Harris. Where are you all? Where are you all? Brendan Day, you're confusing me. What side of the equation you're on? Just show your colors. As an American, the pony is Day. As an American, it's completely insane to me that I'm living through a time that will be in history books in the future. It's just crazy. The Adrian Flow, they're going to impose their puppet and call it. Of course they are. Democracy. The word democracy means fuck all. It's nothing. It's a con. It's a sleight of hand. They give us, if voting changed anything, they wouldn't let us do it. If elections did anything, they wouldn't let us do it. It's all a means to anesthetize the population, give them the feeling that they have some say in where things go, but you have none whatsoever. So they're going to change the authoritarian regime of Venezuela. Let's not forget, the authoritarian regime of Venezuela is authoritarian. We don't like authoritarian at all. Is being swapped or being regime changed by the authoritarian regime of America. Oh, Brendan, you can just sod off. What a load of old shit. You're not even making sense. You don't even make sense. Jog on. That's the problem, Charlie and Evans. Mark, there is no left and right in the USA. They're all in it together. I mean, where are the Democrats? Theoretically, supposedly, where's Gavin? Come on. And rather than just posting some sexy meme, say something, do something, push back. A reform or green coalition, Me Too, wouldn't last more than a couple of years anyway, and then we'll be back to one of the norm of the two. Oh, Me Too. Look, bless you, you know I adore you, but come on, the status quo is fucked. Everything that's happening in the world demonstrates it's all meaningless. I know it's what we have to work within, but I don't think we should work within it anymore. If that means I'm advocating for revolution, so be it. Because I just don't think one can advocate for this system anymore. The system doesn't work. The system doesn't work. The system is a con. I mean, we were having dinner yesterday with a dear friend, and it's like they used a phrase along the lines of, well, now I realize no one is trustworthy. And we were talking about medical issues. They said, now I realize no one is trustworthy. The cat is out of the bag. The pigeon has flown the roost. The smell is out of the potty, whatever the phrase is. We can't turn round. We can't forget now that everything about this system we all live in is essentially a con designed to make us be consensual. We are all being groomed, low level, high level, wide level. Thank you so much, Jen. That's very kind of you, supporting the channel like that. Thank you. Not that it makes any of it acceptable in the slightest, but I guess they just gave the world the Trump-approved playbook for enacting the ICC arrest warrants on Netanyahu, right? I think so. I think I understand what you're saying there, Jen. I mean, this is why America isn't a signatory to the International Criminal Court, which in and of itself is a total fucking tool. It's another slow-moving, glacial organization that makes no progress, that gets nothing done or decided in the right amount of time. And yet is something that, ironically, America and Starmer and everyone who doesn't want to have to fucking commit to anything can say, well, until the ICC says something, we can't say anything. Well, the ICC ain't going to say anything until they're out of fucking Parliament. This is going to cause revolt in the country of Venezuela between the people, says Eleanor Frame. Awful. There is already much anger there. Well, I beg to differ. I think when another sovereign nation attacks a sovereign nation, and this is the problem that the West has, America has, if they want to go plowing into Iran, which they're promising to do, or Israel, is that it can also be a huge galvanizer. Most people in Venezuela now, possibly on both sides of the equation, unless you are literally an American Venezuelan living in America waiting to move back to Venezuela to make lots of money, I'd have thought most people in Venezuela fucking hate Americans now. I mean, even if people don't want Maduro in Venezuela, isn't America coming in and shooting everything up? Isn't that gonna potentially galvanize people? So we are probably going to see regime change. We are, they wouldn't do this if they didn't think that they could achieve it. So we are on the cusp of regime change, and they are going to install some puppet. Starmer is in a deep sleep, says the Mandy Musi. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. They have to find the traitors. Who are the traitors? The pony is day and ICE still going insane. 3 of my friends have been taken. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. And I don't know what country they're in, let alone if they are even alive. The pony is day. Wow. God, I'm so sorry. That's awful. That's awful. So I'm just gonna sort out my clips here. Just bear with me 1 second. So we've gone through, we're going to go back to Venezuela. We're going to get, it's a live story. It's obviously shifting and pivoting all the time. This is the story the Telegraph's running on Iran. Iran opens fire on protesters despite Trump threat. Demonstrations spread with several killed as Tehran warns US not to intervene. The problem with this story, and I said it yesterday, is when you live in a time of propaganda, when you have, okay, let's talk about the notion of protest. If you have protesters, you could, are we saying that any country with protesters, they're protesting against authoritarian regimes? All of them, no. But I would argue that some of the protests in Israel have been against Netanyahu and his style of governance. And many of the kind of not our king protests in America were against the style of presidency and the type of leader they've got in America. So you could argue that those 2 countries have experienced protests from their populations against the country. So protests alone don't suggest that regime change should happen. Otherwise, everyone else in the world has the right to say, well, I think we should engage in some regime change in America. There's enough people in America that aren't happy with Donald Trump. Maybe we should go in and rescue them. And the point I'm trying to make here is, of course, there is opposition, and of course, there is resistance to the Iranian regime. No one is advocating for the Iranian regime. But whatever goes on in Iran should stay in Iran. It's Iran's business. Like Israel keeps telling everyone, it's Israel's business. So I am circumspect in this new land and this new area of life where we've had the mist pulled away from before our eyes, and we realize that actually almost every piece of news we hear has been manipulated and is being used to manipulate us. When I hear protests suddenly going crazy in Iran, only 48 hours after Netanyahu was dancing at Mar-a-Lago, forgive me for not trusting it, not entirely. Doesn't mean there aren't protesters, but I just don't trust it entirely. So forgive me for that. So on that, I just want to play you this clip.
A war may be over, but the propaganda machine isn't. So what do Israel and America even want? One day we're told Iran is a nuclear threat, despite there being substantial evidence to the contrary. In actuality, Israel and the United States are the most dangerous nuclear-armed nations on Earth, both initiating never-ending wars in the Middle East. The next day we're told Iran is an evil regime that needs to be overthrown, despite it being a sovereign country with a multi-layered government that hasn't attacked another nation in this century, unlike both Israel and the US. Then we're told this is about women's rights in Iran. But if the US and Israel really cared about Muslim women, they wouldn't be threatening to bomb them, and would have ended the Gaza genocide, which has killed mostly women and children. In 2020, the literacy rate of women in Iran was higher than that of men, and women made up the majority of Iran's university students. 70% of science and engineering students are women. While concerns about women's rights are legitimate, it's not as black and white as warmongers would have you believe, and there's no bomb that would help. All this suggests that the conflict with Iran has nothing to do with human rights, global peace, or evil regimes. It's just another war of American and Israeli imperialism to subjugate the entire Middle East.
To quote the great Greta Thunberg, it's nothing more complicated than good old-fashioned imperialist racism. They want control. The West, Israel and America want control. They want control. This isn't, the idea, the spurious argument that it's about women's rights coming from a nation, America, that is rolling back the facility or ability or the reproductive rights of women around abortion. Are you having a laugh? Where we have Erica Kirk advocating for basically, what is it called? Subjugated or subdued women. What's that phrase? Women who are just compliant and just don't pull the other one. Swathes of America where if you're gay, you will be attacked. Huge swathes of Israeli religious groups and sections of the Israeli society totally intolerant of homosexuality, totally intolerant of women's rights. It's a spurious, fake, fraudulent attempt to legitimize regime change and imperial expansionism. It's just all unforgivably manipulative.
Step in if peaceful protesters are shot and killed. President Donald Trump is warning that the US will step in if peaceful protesters are shot and killed in Iran. In a Truth Social post, he said, quote, "We are locked and loaded and ready to go." Now, the protests began after a deepening economic crisis in Iran. Shopkeepers, traders and students taking to the streets as prices soar and the currency is collapsing.
Well, I believe true journalism isn't just spouting this shit out there, but it's asking probing questions around why is there a vested interest in America and Israel managing to get this narrative out there that the civil unrest in Iran is about regime change. Why are there no mainstream journalists actually asking questions not about what they say they see, and we have no way of knowing how those protests are fomented? Not all of them are fomented. They're genuine. I mean, I did a review of a film last year. There is a lot to be criticized about the Iranian system and the Iranian regime. Absolutely. I mean, that goes without saying. But there's a difference between being critical of issues in a sovereign nation and invading it or bombing it or using that as a pretext for regime changes. These are two completely different things. And we are just slipping into such an old-fashioned American imperialist approach. It's like America realizes that their imperial hold on the world is ebbing and is fading. And what we're seeing now is that, if you like, the friendly face of Hollywood and the way in which America's charmed the world for years, they can't do the charm offensive anymore. Now we just have to see this is the truth. What we're witnessing now, beneath that sort of showbiz veneer of the American smile and the American dream, is the dark, seedy, maggot-infested underbelly of what America is about. This is it. It's about control. It's about expansion. It's about trying to find some way of dealing with a vast incoming crunch moment, because their national debt is not going down, it's only going up. There has to be not only regime change in all these other countries, there has to be regime change in America and across the world, because the system cannot keep going. But today, I want to know right now in this country, what is Starmer's take on this? I don't want to hear Badenoch. I don't want to hear Kemi Badenoch trotting out her prep school bollocks. I don't want to hear Farage choking through his own Qatar and smelling of ale. I want to hear Starmer. I want to hear Starmer, the genocide charmer, stand up to this. I want to hear our government, a Labour government, say something. Persephone personified. Good journalists are not published. If it's against our current regime, they are silenced. Yeah, you're called conspiracies theorists. You're called independent journalists, as some kind of, marked kind of idea. You're not proper journalists. This idea of proper journalists is an absolute fucking spurious joke. None of these mainstream publications do proper journalism. They just present what they see or what they're shown. So it's a fast-moving story. Here's the latest updates on the Venezuela story. So 6 minutes ago, Sam Jones, the Madrid correspondent for The Guardian, has shared a longer statement from the Spanish Foreign Ministry. So here we go. I wonder if Starmer could take some inspiration from what Spain have said. Spain calls for de-escalation and moderation, and for action to be conducted in accordance with international law and the principles of the UN Charter. In this regard, Spain is prepared to offer its good offices to achieve a peaceful and negotiated solution to the current crisis. Spain reiterates that it's not recognized the results of the 28th of July 2024 elections and has always supported initiatives to achieve a democratic solution for Venezuela. It also reiterates that it has welcomed and will continue to welcome tens of thousands of Venezuelans who've had to leave their country for political reasons, and that it is prepared to assist in the search for a democratic, negotiated and peaceful solution for the country. So they can be critical of Venezuela and critical of the way in which Donald Trump has gone about dealing with it. Let's see what Starmer says. Oh my God, what do I do? What do I do? Oh, where's Angela Rayner with your data? Oh, fucking hell. All I wanted to do was watch Arsenal play. All I wanted to do was just stand there and just cheer like an absolute moron. MeTube, it's a good thing that Maduro is removed, not the best way. That's the understatement. Not the best way to go, but surely, I mean, not the best way to go about it. If you go about it like this in all countries, we are in the Wild West, no? This is the Wild West. And I'm sure now it's been done once, we should presumably just expect it to happen again. And not necessarily from America against, what if Putin decides, oh, you know what, I'm really sick to death of the UK. You know what? It's terrible, isn't it? I heard someone on the radio over Christmas saying, I can't wait almost for the day that all of those people who are pointing the finger at migrants and asylum seekers, the day that maybe could come when we are looking around the world for somewhere to escape to. I can't wait to see the look on the faces of those who were blaming everything on asylum seekers as we potentially become asylum seekers. Elaine 6169, Starmer is like a hypnotized Manchurian candidate. What a brilliant analogy. Yeah, the US is the Wild West, says Matt E. Parker. Unforeseen Mark definitely wants to kick. I didn't know spitting image is still going. This is the tech way, move fast, break things, says MeTube. Charlene Evans, agree, Mark. I live in the wild Midwest, says Persephone. It's an absolute fucking joke. All of it is a joke. And look, meanwhile, Israeli embassy accuses BBC of ignoring Iran protests while obsessing over Gaza. Obsessing, all right. Imagine if someone was to say, why is Israel obsessing about what happened in the Holocaust? Everyone would be called anti-Semitic. Everyone would be criticized for diminishing the importance of the Holocaust. But look, there's Israel. Once again, poor me. Israeli embassy accuses BBC of ignoring Iran protests whilst obsessing over Gaza. Obsessing? Are you joking? The BBC hasn't obsessed over it. And if anyone is obsessing over Gaza, it's because you've committed a fucking genocide. Why are you obsessing? National broadcasters' impartiality questioned over near total silence on mass demonstrations against the Islamic Republic. What? Demonstrations that you fomented, fan the flames of, because you want to go in and occupy and attack? Oh, did you commit a genocide? And everyone's going on about it. Oh, BB, you total narcissistic prick. 2026, Germany's foreign minister has spoken on Saturday and said it was watching the situation with concern. Germany's given me a clue as to what Starmer's going to say. The UK would like to say that we are deeply concerned. If he says deeply concerned, he's deeply concerned about the situation in Venezuela, I promise you right now, I am going to eat a shoelace. I'm going to try and eat a shoelace of one of my shoes, sprinkled with sriracha. I will. If he comes out and goes, we are deeply concerned by the escalating situation in Venezuela, and we will be keeping that's exactly what he's going to say. If I hear the fucking DC one more time, deeply concerned. I'm deeply concerned about Starmer. Deeply concerned. We're deeply concerned. Well, that's what Germany's saying. Hopeless government in Germany. Hopeless. Oh, look, they're watching the situation in Venezuela with great concern, and a crisis team was to meet later for further discussion. Oh, thanks for that, Germany. That really fucking sorts the situation out. That makes it all manageable. I've had enough of these fuckwads, really. God help us all, Emma Staple. You're absolutely right. And breathe. So at 11 o'clock, the curly cooks will be landing. But there we are. That's where we're at. We will probably, or I will probably be going live again later once the big flatulent sack of shit, Donald Trump, gives his statement or chat at Mar-a-Lago, 11 a.m., whatever time that is here. I'll have a look at that. He'll ramble his way through it. He'll talk about how brilliant it all is. And yeah, we might even know where Maduro is. But yeah, rest assured, it's all tied up with Epstein, and it's all tied up with, curiously and more curiously, Netanyahu's visit over Christmas. And I'm astonished, actually, that Benjamin Netanyahu hasn't issued a public statement. He's always trying to be part of every news story, isn't he? Yeah. Anyway, 4 p.m. UK time. Thanks so much, Alison Fisher. And don't forget, it's the darts final tonight. All right, guys. See you at 11 for the Curly Cooks.